It can be misshapen. That'll probably go to the cows. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it will taste better than a normal shaped one because it's got more dry matter. It's going to have more sugar in it. But it doesn't matter. Consumers don't like the look of that one. So just think about you how many kids you got? They're not the same, are they? No. Well, inside here, there's 800 kids in this one piece of fruit, and every one of them is different. And half of them might be boys, and half of them might be girls. And so you go through and select out, and there's all sorts of things they're looking for in selection. This variety was selected, first of all, because it's a prolific fruiter. Yeah. And not just a prolific fruiter, but we can get a lot of tonnes per hectare of decent sized fruit. You can get a pile of other varieties in kiwi fruit that might have as many flowers, but their fruit are small because they just don't create the energy and grow as quickly. Every single female, every 2 females, we have 1 male. So you can see 1 male there, 1 female there, and 1 female there. Bees pollinate, bees pick up pollen off the male flowers and deliver it onto the female flowers. Humans also come along, pick all the male flower off early, process it, get all the pollen out of the flowers, and then we blow it back on using blowers. In some ways we don't actually get it all back on the flowers. What we target to do is get some pollen floating around in here, and then the bees come in and pick it up off leaves and put it on flowers for us. So, Pseudomonas syringae actinidae. So it's a particular type of bacterial disease that only affects kiwi fruit vines. So the actinidae is the version that hurts kiwi fruit vines. In this case, what it's done to this vine is we've girdled. This girdling, I'll tell you what girdling is in a minute. So we girdle this vine, and that girdle never healed properly. And this plant would always have had PSA. Every vine here will have PSA in it, but it's being able to battle against it. This vine we've hurt by not girdling it properly, and then the plant's decided it's going to fight against being wounded. It's a bit like a cicada coming along and eating it, or a locust or something. So it starts battling that, and the bacteria then takes control. Because a plant has 2 defense systems. This one defense system that is a fighting chewing insects or breakage attack, and one that fights against bacterial attack. So most of the time it'll be fending off that bacteria. They're living symbiotically, and they want to do that because bacteria can't afford to kill the plant. If it kills the plant, where's it going? It won't live either. So it wants to live in a symbiotic relationship. But if the plant thinks, nah, shit, something's bloody attacking me, like some stupid human who came along here and over-girdled it. So now it tries to fix the girdle. While it's doing that, the bacteria doesn't have any defenses against it, and it proliferates. And what's happened here, effectively, that all that stuff you see there is it reacting to try and fix the wound, and then the bacteria has just taken hold, but he wrecked the vascular system of the plant. It's still, you only need to have a little bit of what's called the cambium layer on a kiwi fruit vine, and it will survive. You know, it might have something that that's worrying it a bit, and it's just, this is its backup plan. If this bit dies, at least I've got something else here. And so we would use that. That'll harden off over the winter, and then we just chop it there and graft the female vine into, this isn't, the bottom is a different variety. So this was grafted probably in about there somewhere at some stage. And if this vine died, we'd chainsaw it off there, graft onto this with the Hayward variety, and 2 years would be producing fruit again. So as I say, I'm surprised this one must have gone so quickly that it didn't have time to fire out some suckers to give us an indication that it's struggling. Yeah. And because it hasn't got a sucker, I've now got nothing to graft to. If it's still green tissue though down here somewhere, I can whack that off with a chainsaw, plant some grafts into the top of it in the winter, they'll push in the spring, and yeah, we'll have two new leaders by the end of next year. That out of this gully here, we were getting a mass infestation in early October every year of a little beetle called a bronze beetle. And they come in and over one night, they come in and then they just land on the crop and they eat everything. And you'd go, one day you'd be in here, and it's early in the season where you got little short shoots, and you'd come in here and it looked green, and I'd come back the next day and all the shoots were all gone. They don't fly very high. So what we did is we put this up, and so there are times when they do come now, but I'll lose all the shoots on this piece out here because they hit the shelter, fall down, eat all of them, and then everything inside's fine. And they were only going on that side, so I didn't need to put it across here because they're only ever hitting that side of the... So that's gold 3 on that side, and the easy way to tell whether somebody's got gold 3 is that most gold 3 orchardists use the strings to string their crop.
What does that do for frost?
So what it does is it swings around and it turbulates the air, so creates wind, and effectively wind, if the air is moving, the frost can't settle.
Right.
Yeah.
And just that would affect this whole thing?
Yeah, so it rotates 360 degrees, so it just goes, so it goes round that way and round that way. So you end up with lots of fruit like tiny wee bloody unpollinated ones, because there won't be a pile of males necessarily down there. And the bigger the vine gets, the less productive it gets, because it doesn't feel that there's anything to constrain it, right? So it's living fine. Why do I need to? Yeah. Why don't I need to reproduce? But unfortunately, these things are quite viable, and anything we don't pick. So we go through and we're picking it all, and all the leaves are on when we pick. So I might miss some that are up in here somewhere. They'll ripen naturally later on, and the birds will come and have a feed. Then they'll go and have a crap down the bank, and 3 years later you got 800 seeds in each fruit, so they eat a few seeds, and they scarify them as they go through their digestive tract. So down there they'll grow easily. And so there's a whole program. We have a biosecurity program in our industry where we'll effectively pay a levy to control what's called wild kiwifruit. If we dug up that vine there, it's probably got a root system because of the Te Puke soil that it's in, volcanic. It's probably going down 8 to 10 meters. Wow. Yeah. So it's hunting out water, and there's lots of water in aquifers underneath these areas. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas you go down onto the flats where we're driving those peat swamps and that, there's some places growing kiwifruit down there. They'd be lucky to have a root system as deep as a metre, because if they go too far down, when it rains, it all floods, and roots don't like water, so they'll only grow in the area they can grow. We would struggle to kill a vine here through lack of water up on this orchard. In fact, our biggest drama in wet seasons is getting enough dry matter into the fruit, because they've got such big root systems. They're busy feeding all their carbohydrate down into the roots. Now, if climate change adaptation does suggest, though, that in particular what will happen here with global warming is that we won't get enough cold in the winter. Right. And this kiwifruit need cold in the winter. Right. If they don't get cold, they don't... effectively, that cold is like a shock, and that makes them burst bud and be prolific in flowering. It's like a stress. Yeah. We can artificially give them that stress by spraying a chemical on them called hydrogen cyanamide. And it effectively, it's like a substitute for chilling units in the winter. Normally we're after about 550 hours below 7 degrees, I think it is. And this year, this orchard probably got that. because it's up at higher altitude, but colder up here in the winter. And it's not about just all chill, it's when you get the chill. Got to get it at the right time of the year, right time of the winter. If you get it, if it's warm and mild at the start of the winter and then cold late, we end up with dramas. There is a little bit of select picking done in some seasons, and the way we do that's just on size. So you train somebody to pick only the big fruit, and we leave the little fruit for another 3 weeks, and we come through and get the rest. We do that in seasons where it's wet and we haven't got enough dry matter in the small fruit, because there's actually a relationship between size and dry matter. The big fruit always have more dry matter than the small fruit. So we pick the big fruit and then give the small fruit less competition, another 3 weeks, and then they get a little bit higher. Mow the grass? Yeah, not on my property, they're not.